Hey guys, it's Ashley and Davy here again at Utah Trikes, and today we're gonna ride two trikes from England
England all the way across the pond.
all the way across. We've got the world record holder here, the Ice VTX, and then we've got the comfort model. This is the Ice Sprint X Tour, also fast. And what we did to make this comparison a little more on the fair side here is we've equipped both of these with the carbon fiber hardshell seat. We're going to be talking about suspension. We're going to be talking about speed, handling. We're going to see what these differences are. Let's go out and ride.
Yeah,
Let's do it. Last time that you were on the VTX, was when we were comparing it with the carbon trike.
yes, racing trike comparisons specifically.
Yeah, and we were talking about speed and performance, and the particular focus that you had was comfort. And and that was a big thing. It's when you buy a trike, a lot of the reason that you're buying a trike is because of comfort.
Yeah.
If you're coming from like a racing bike background and you're going to a trike, it's because you want something more comfortable. Maybe you've never ridden a bike before and you're looking at a trike, it's because you want something more comfortable.
Yeah.
And the fact is, on any trike, you're sitting down, you're going to be comfortable. Some trikes are more comfortable than others.
They're all laid back, they're all reclined. They all have a standard level of comfort, but it can always go higher or lower depending on each type of trike and how they're built up.
A lot of times when you're talking about comfort, you're talking about making a compromise. It's a compromise of comfort versus speed versus performance versus the weight, for example. And when we were riding all of these racing trikes, that was one thing that became apparent, was that some trikes were more comfortable than other trikes.
And sometimes you got to forego comfort for speed.
Yeah. The VTX, they're kind of in that middle sweet spot of comfort and speed.
Yeah.
It's a great hill climber.
So it has a lot of great racing qualities, while also still having more of a racing style of comfort, but on the higher end. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how that compares to the Sprint X Tour, which is basically the more comfortable version of the VTX.
The main reason that we're doing this comparison here is because it comes down to these two trikes for a lot of riders.
Yeah.
Because they go, well, I want that speed, and I know that that Ice VTX is going to give me that speed, but I also want something more comfortable.
Yeah, you need to find that balance and what's perfect for you.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm riding on the right side of the road.
Very bumpy side of the road.
I chose to ride on the right side this time, starting out on the Sprint X Tour, specifically because I wanted to take advantage of this suspension.
Really push it to its limits there.
The Sprint X Tour is very modular, and it can be configured in a lot of ways. So the frame is very similar to the VTX, but it's a little bit wider, sits up a little bit higher, and has the option for suspension.
Ooh.
So I've got this one here equipped with the front and rear suspension. I'm kind of enjoying going over these bumps. Jan and I went for a ride the other day, and I was riding this, and he was also riding the VTX, and I even had the mesh seat on this. And that's one nice feature about the Sprint X Tour. You can put that mesh seat on this, and it is comfortable. But I have never been so comfortable with a hard shell carbon seat like this. than I am right now. Like, this just feels great.
And it's probably worth mentioning that the Hardshell seat is a custom edition here, Sprint X Tour. It comes stock on the VTX. Though.
Yeah, it comes stock on the VTX, and in fact, it's kind of one of those integral parts of the VTX. Yeah. And putting this on this Sprint X Tour here really does kind of give you a little bit of a performance advantage.
Yeah.
But part of it is I wanted us to be able to really evaluate ICE's suspension.
Yeah.
So we've got one trike here that is the roughest riding ice trike.
Entirely rigid to save on weight and make it as light as possible.
Hardshell seat. And you know my feelings on this, and I'm gonna say it again when we go down that hill. The VTX, those vibrations, they channel to me. I know what that feels like, and I'm excited to go on this trike and then compare it again. I'm excited to have you compare this again.
Yeah.
Because that's really why we're doing this. We wanted to strip out the mesh seat because we already know the mesh seat's going to be softer.
Oh yeah, and it's going to be way more padded and give you way more space. So it just kind of, it's hard to compare.
This test here is a straight up, what does the suspension do for speed, handling? Does it affect my hill climbing? How much of those vibrations and bumps does it get rid of?
Yeah, and then you've also got wider tires than me too. I've got some skinny racing tires.
Yeah.
And you have, what is it, 1 point?
Yeah, I've got the 1.75 on this. You know, this is really set up as more of a touring package here. It's that modularity. You can change anything you want to change on this.
Okay, let's hit this hill.
Yeah, we're going up the hill, and I almost forgot. You know, so far as we've been riding, we're covering ground a lot faster than usual. Maybe it's the heat of the day makes me want to go faster.
Yeah.
But with the hardshell seat here, I do feel like my power is going right to that back wheel. But at the same time, and I am mashing, and I'm doing that kind of intentionally, so I can really kind of feel that rear suspension. And I am feeling that rear suspension give a little bit every time that I push.
And I'm loving this seat as usual.
Yeah.
And all my power is going straight to that back wheel. It feels super efficient.
Made it to the top of the hill. I feel like that sun is just right on top of us.
It's only gonna get
worse. When we climb the hill the second time, I gotta be on the beach.
Yeah, a bit more efficient on that hill climbing.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, like, it's super nice to feel that seat with this rigid frame going up hills. It feels so efficient. All of my power is going directly from my pedals into my lower back and into my back wheel. It works super well, and it always is really impressive how intuitive it is.
The more that I've been riding the ice trikes past few weeks, like switching back and forth, I'm getting used to the trigger shifters a little bit more.
Yeah.
I still think I'd rather have bar and shifters, but not too bad.
I personally am a big fan of the trigger shifters, so.
You like them?
Yeah. It works out for me really well, at least.
Okay. A lot of times, especially when I'm climbing or when I'm going down, I like to be able to just shift through that whole range of gears.
Yeah, just really quickly.
All at once.
Really nice.
Where with the trigger shifters, you can really only shift, you know, one or two at a time.
Yeah.
Making good time today.
It's these racing trikes.
Yeah,
They
racing
just made
trikes.
it go fast.
The ice underseat steering, it's just silky smooth.
Yeah.
It just feels so good. It is like power steering, but at the same time, you know, it's just tracking really nice. And that's one thing I want to see the difference too. Sprint X Tour, because it's taller, has taller spindles and everything, just feels, it feels really nice.
All right.
So let's go down this hill as fast as we can, Davy.
I'll see what I can do.
No coasting today. I got this bump here.
Oh, yeah, take it.
Woo.
Oof. How does it absorb a big bump like that?
Well, you know, so right there at the bottom of that hill, there's a pretty big bump. And then it's followed almost immediately by a couple of manhole covers.
Yeah.
And that's kind of always been my like high speed impact test. And I don't know how well they show up on the cameras, but like that's the one, some of the other trikes before that I've taken that on, where I almost felt like it threw me off.
Yeah.
On this Sprint X tour, like I didn't even really notice it. And I was trying to hit it as hard as I could. And it just, that's where I felt like it really just absorbed that bump. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Again, this thing is super nice going down those hills. It's great going uphill and it's great going downhill as well. I'm interested to see if it's just a Sprint X Tour thing or if it's a VTX thing, because on the VTX, just the steering is really touchy. And it's not my favorite kind of steering. So I'm curious to see if the suspension kind of absorbed a little bit of that.
And that's one thing I was mentioning right as we were at the top of or coming down the hill.
Yeah.
One thing that I do notice on the VTX is that the sensitive steering.
Yeah.
With the Sprint X Tour, I feel like it's rock solid.
Interesting. I'm excited to try that. I'm excited to try that.
And I think it's, you know, it's a little bit different frame geometry because they're putting that big suspension block down there.
Yeah.
But like this steering just feels totally different than what, you know, the VTX. And, you know, as soon as I switch back on there, I'll be able to confirm that. But ICE tends to, you know, under gear their trikes though.
Yeah.
Like, I'm never able to go down the hill as fast as I want to go.
For me, I was going the perfect amount. I still had enough, like it wasn't.
All right, and I am going to downshift to this for you this time.
Yeah, I also will get you down that lower gear.
Yeah, well, let's do it. Let's swap.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you, that's immediately different.
I'm so much higher up. This is so weird.
The difference here in efficiency, or at least what feels like efficiency, is insane.
Yeah.
Like, as soon as I sit on this thing,
oh, this thing's like bouncing.
Like this thing just, like there is no power being lost that's not going to my back wheel.
This suspension is soft. Like with every pedal, I'm like bouncing like a trampoline.
Yeah, so you see kind of what I was saying. It's like you could feel it kind of absorbs a little bit of your
100%
pedal power. Yeah.
I gotta slow down.
Yeah, this is what I like. Climb hills on this thing all day long. Yeah. Carbon fiber seat and light rigid frame. That's the way to go. Hey, Davy!
Yeah?
Where'd you go?
I'm working on it!
All right. Well, I made it up the hill. Let's wait for Davy just a little bit. You know, the trick is you just keep moving slow. And then I still get to rest a little bit. And then Davy, he gets to catch up to me and gets to keep pedaling. So it's great. Woo!
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, here he comes. There you are.
Howdy. That suspension's taking all my power when I go up a hill. It's crazy.
It's funny how your perspective changes when you ride from day to day.
Oh, yeah.
You know, because I've been riding the VTX and the Sprint X Tour, both of them, pretty regularly.
Yeah.
When I started on the Sprint X Tour today, I thought, well, yeah, with this carbon shell seat, because I've been riding it with the mesh seat.
Yeah.
And so I think, oh, well, with this carbon shell seat, that thing feels just like the VTX, but with suspension.
No.
You know, I didn't think it was too bad. But like, as soon as I sit on this, it's like this thing feels like it has a motor.
Yeah.
And it does not have a motor.
Not at all.
Yeah.
But just, it's so efficient. You
Yeah.
just feel it immediately. Like, what I'm noticing for this Sprint X Tour here is that I just feel like I'm in the padded seat, honestly. Like, with how wide this is, it's like, I don't know how much this hardshell seat like really changes how the ride goes. Like,
oh, I'll tell you. So like I said, I've been riding with the mesh seat.
Yeah.
And today was my first time actually riding that with the carbon seat.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I definitely could feel the difference there.
Interesting. Would you say it's more of a positive difference?
You know, I would say it's a little less comfortable.
Yeah.
And has a little more power. So exactly what you would expect from a carbon seat, you know.
Yeah.
A hardshell seat, it's like it was easier to climb with, not quite as comfortable as the mesh seat.
Yeah.
But definitely a bit more comfortable than just this with
no suspension, right?
with no suspension.
I'm seeing what you were saying about that steering.
Right?
It's a lot more sturdy, so I'm excited.
So
to
like
see
this
that on the
steering here, you know, feels a little bit more sensitive. Not too bad though. That Sprint X Tour just rocked. Well, let's go.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to see some speed out of you this time. Let's go, highest gear. Alright, this thing is fast. This thing is crazy fast.
So let's see.
Wow, VTX.
It closed a lot of it.
Alright, well, how'd that go for you, Davey?
I really like the steering. The steering, I think the suspension absorbs a lot of that kind of jitteriness that you find on the VTX, right? So going downhill, on the VTX, I let go of the handles and I can feel it kind of veer. But on this one, it's like really sturdy going straight and everything's super sturdy. I let go of the handlebars and hit that big bump that's at the bottom of the hill.
Yeah.
Kept me completely going straight.
Yeah.
Which I really enjoy that. Like the only thing that is a little iffy for me on the VTX is that really jittery steering. So this is like perfect for that. I love it.
I hit that same bump on the VTX here and that was hard.
Yeah.
Like the Trike handled it well, but I hit that bump so hard I think I actually lifted from the seat.
Oh, dang.
A little bit coming off.
I was the opposite. This thing just absorbs that.
The ice front suspension is amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it gets rid of those road vibrations.
There's like nothing.
And it just feels buttery smooth, especially when you combine it with that indirect steering. You know, that just feels, it just feels so nice.
Yeah.
The VTX here, though, it's a different machine. I mean, as soon as I got on this, I just felt like a rocket.
Yeah, like they're so similar, but like the second you sit on them back to back, they feel so different.
No, and you saw it. I mean, that hill there, you know, it was like climbing the hill on that. I thought, okay, it's not bad. Climbing the hill on the VTX was easy. I felt like, oh my gosh, am I really climbing the hill?
Yeah.
The gearing on this is just a tad bit higher, so a slightly bigger front chainring there. But this VTX, like, it was fast. I felt like, okay, I'm going about as fast as I want to go.
Yeah.
On this. The more time that I spend here on the VTX though, the more that I'm constantly realizing, I don't have suspension.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like
something simple like going over railroad tracks like that.
I accidentally hit that railroad going way faster than I thought. I'm like, crap, this is gonna suck. But then just this suspension just absorbed the whole thing. It just felt like I was bouncing on a trampoline as I went over that like super bumpy railroad. That was really funny.
I definitely did not feel like that. That bottom, and I've commented this before when we were comparing the various racing trikes, that bottom scoop, the crotch scoop on the ice carbon seat, I didn't even really notice it on that Sprint X Tour there.
Yeah, like I think it's just the way that it's set up and the way that the Sprint X sits. Because it's a lot
maybe
more...
a slightly higher bottom bracket, your legs are higher. And plus I think that suspension makes it so that you don't really feel those hard bumps there.
Yeah.
Where like I'm definitely feeling it in my tailbone right now. The longer that I sit in this seat, the more my butt's gonna hurt a little bit.
Yeah, like the way I sit on the VTX and the way it's positioned, a lot of that pressure is more on my tailbone and the lower back.
Sure.
But the way that it's positioned on the Sprint X Tour, I'm a bit more upright and I'm sitting directly on the cheeks of my butt, which is way different than how you sit.
Yeah, and it is different because the VTX here, so we have both of these seats are laid back.
Yeah.
As far as they'll go on their trike.
It feels a lot higher up.
And it is, yeah. So before we left, I actually laid the seat back on the Sprint X Tour, and that's as far back as it would go.
Dang.
And this, you know, this is already laying back a little bit more. I kind of felt like this comparison between these two trikes would be more along the lines of, if you want a fast racing trike, get the VTX. If you want a racing trike with full suspension, then get the Sprint X Tour. But that's not the way I'm feeling.
I'm feeling more like, if you want a fast touring trike, go for the Sprint X Tour. But if you want a racing trike, go for the VTX.
These are two totally different trikes. On the surface, they kind of feel, or they kind of seem like they would be the same with, you could have some more options.
Yeah.
But no, this is a fast racing machine. The ICE VTX is a fast world record setting racing machine.
Yeah.
And the Sprint X Tour is something else entirely. It's a comfortable touring commuting trike.
Like coming into this, I was expecting the Sprint X Tour to be much more of a racing trike outfitted to be
a touring trike.
Yeah.
Right.
A touring trike. But it definitely is a touring trike with a little bit of outfitting to be more similar to a racing trike.
Right.
It's got a lot more of those touring trike roots.
It's definitely making me think that our next comparison needs to be between the Sprint X Tour and the Adventure.
Oh, yeah.
Because I really think that it feels much more like the Adventure than it does the VTX.
Like a racing adventure.
So now I'm feeling every bump in this thing. And
I'm not.
You know, I rode the bumpy side of the road on the way there, and on the way back, I'm on the smooth part of the road, and I'm still feeling all the little vibrations on this. It's fun and it's fast. And I gotta say, I totally enjoy how much less pedaling effort the VTX takes.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm barely having to pedal, and we're cooking, we're moving.
I don't know if you saw, but over on that bumpy side, I was purposely going off over the lip into like the gravel and back up just to really push it. And it's like, it's just smooth. This suspension is so soft and absorbing. Like, it feels fantastic.
Well, one thing we haven't mentioned yet is the price. So as configured right now, this VTX is somewhere in the like $6,100 price range. So not an inexpensive trike, but about what you would expect for a racing trike.
Yeah, especially one of that quality.
Yeah, and the Sprint X Tour, as configured there, with that carbon seat, you know, we're in the $7,000, a little bit more. So you know, we're about $1,000 more.
Yeah, and that just comes with that suspension. Really, is what adds that.
Yeah, so you're, and that's the big thing. You're getting suspension You're getting 3-wheel brakes. You know, it's a different machine. All right, guys. Well, we made it back to the shop. That was a fun ride today.
Yeah.
It was a little hot. I would much rather do hot rides on fast trikes.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, that way it doesn't take quite as long. You know, I think we both learned a couple things.
Oh, definitely.
You know, I felt going into it that the Sprint X Tour and the VTX were going to be pretty similar. And I was going to just notice that suspension. And I thought it was going to be more of this is what suspension does. But what I really came out of this was this is what the speed component is.
Yeah.
This is what the performance aspect is. And I think that that performance aspect and the comfort aspect, they moved a lot further apart than I thought they would be.
And I think that really comes down to these frames. Like this is a much more similar to a touring trike frame. That's a racing trike frame.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting to feel that difference because there's a lot of difference in that suspension. But for me, a lot of the difference came in how I was sitting, how it feels, like the cruciform, how high I'm sitting, how wide it is, right? Like that frame really makes you feel like you're on a touring trike over a racing trike. Which is
that a little bit of width too.
Yeah.
You know, and we didn't really comment on this, but you know, this is narrow and it's a little it's a little confining, and your hands are a little lower. You know, but this is made to go fast. I think that the longer that you ride this, you're going to get a little more sore, where I do feel like the Sprint X Tour is a trike that I could spend a lot more time in.
Yeah, that VTX is super efficient. It's super sturdy. It gets you going as fast as possible while utilizing all the energy that you're putting out in it. And the Sprint X Tour is really just a fast touring trike. It's much more on comfort than efficiency. I feel like the Sprint X Tour was amazing for going on flat ground, whereas the VTX really shined going uphill and downhill.
Yeah, hills. That, you know, if you got a lot of hills, you want a hill-eating machine, VTX.
Yeah.
Well, either way, guys, these are two great trikes, and depending on what you're looking for, you know, that's really going to guide you. You know, if you're looking for a touring, everyday commuting trike, the Sprint X Tour is going to be a little bit better in that way. And if you're looking for a lightweight, fast racing trike, then the VTX is it. So if you guys have any questions, let us know. Check out our website, check out our other YouTube videos, and stop in. Come get a test ride. You know, we're 10 minutes away from the airport. We're open, and you can come take test rides with us. So we're here. And in the meantime,
remember to relax, spin fast, and ride trikes. We'll see you guys next time.
We'll see ya. Thanks. You know, I enjoy wearing the worst riding clothes possible. And of course, we are leaving like an hour later than what we normally like to do.
It's gonna be hot.
It's gonna be hot. Sweaty jeans and in a work shirt. I was riding the VTX earlier and didn't realize that this one had the parking brake.
Sweaty jeans and a black work shirt that absorbs.
Well, let's climb this hill. And so I'm pedaling this with the parking brake on. I gotta get some air circulating. And I thought, oh my gosh, I must be doing something wrong.